It's Beau is Afraid Clock, everybody. It's that time of year again where Ari Aster comes out of whatever he's been doing for the past couple of years and gives us a movie. This time it's called Beau is Afraid. Was this the original title? I feel like it changed halfway through like the releasing of it where they're like, no, this last one's not going to be marketed right. Let's change it to Beau is Afraid. A title that works for everybody. Ari Aster, a director and writer who is on a winning streak. I might not be the biggest fan of Midsommar or of Hereditary. Not my movies. I completely get how today's generation and people integrated in today's stuff love those flicks and that genre and the way he's crafted those. Great movies. I think they're just fine, and I like more what they do for the genre and how he tells a story than I like the actual story he was telling. So when Beau is Afraid comes out, my first reaction is, oh, you're doing something larger than the last ones, which I like. We were kind of in like this fluctuation period in Hollywood where auteurs weren't allowed to make their passion projects on a big scale anymore. We're kind of seeing that happen now. We just had Babylon, which was one of my favorite movies ever made. Damien Chazelle got a chance to do this. And now Ari Aster is getting to make his 3-hour magnum opus for a select few people. That's kind of impressive. I think that's cool. The fact that it could still happen, it just shows that something's working. Beau is Afraid is Joaquin Phoenix-led, an actor who's already divisive in some stance, and is a very fascinating film. Now, there are a lot of people and a lot of channels on social media from content creators and critics of this variety, my variety, talking about how this film is like insane and it's like doing all this crazy stuff, and it's like, what did I just watch? I can't explain it. I have to sit back and think about it. When I walked out of this theater, I was kind of just like, I don't understand those reactions because this is pretty straightforward. It's a pretty easy film to understand. Like, it's literally showing you what it's doing. I don't think there's anything that made me go, whoa, this is intense. Like, my mind is blown. I have to think about this for a couple of days. I walked out going, you really had a vision in mind and you ran with it. And that vision is not going to be for everybody. And I appreciate that. I like seeing that. I am very mixed on this film. There are stuff about it I really do like. There's things about it that are hollow and lazy and cheap and so obvious, but again, Ari Aster's not here to break the mold. He's not here to change the way you think about film or relationships or love or like anxiety. He's just showing you stuff in that world with that guys. This is an anxiety-induced movie. Our lead character is very much afraid of the world around him. We see that in the first third of this movie, just like the way he lives, the life he lives, the characters and people that influence his world. When he interacts with them and sees them, there is a genuine fear, there's a genuine anxiety. Both internal and external. You see the things outside of the world that scare him. You see the way people treat each other and it scares him. And internally, he's afraid of those conflicts too. It's pretty much on the nose. And that's completely fine. But then we move a little bit further from that. The second two halves kind of start delving into this idea of like parental guilt, more in particular like a mother's guilt or a mother's love towards her child. Interesting themes to play with. Again, something that's been explored a lot in cinema is creators talking about their relationship to a loved one, in particular their parents. This isn't doing anything new. What I think this does different than other ones of like this big magnum opus genre is we see that Aster's just like, we're having fun. I don't think this movie's supposed to be taken at face value. I really don't. I did not walk out of this going, yeah, this guy's telling a serious relationship about like how his mother fucked him up. I don't think that's the case at all. I think what he is doing is presenting an exaggerated version of that relationship. When a mother gives life to you, you become her whole world, and suddenly when you are not there 24/7 for her and you start to think differently than she does, you start to have your own identity away from her, there is that connection that just makes her like, well, you should be there for me all the time because I am there for you all the time. And she starts to guilt you in that, and that is I'm sure a thread that is common in a lot of households, common in a lot of relationships with parents, but when we just amplify that up a little bit, we get some weird stuff going on. It is very much a mother's guilt or the trauma of a mother figure messing you up as an individual, and you feel so ashamed that you let them down, and it just messes you up, but there's also that part of you that maybe just wants to like hurt them and break free. That is what we're exploring here. With a man who is anxious all the time, scared of everything, and we're just putting that in like a claustrophobic room on a grandiose scale. It's very impressive and a well-made film. And again, the dialogue isn't wholeheartedly original. There are key moments where I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. There's one like narration thing where like the kind of like the last third is kind of about like this play. There's one part of that's like a narration about like life itself and like your role in society as a person and like growing old. And I'm like, that's a cool concept to explore. And you're talking about like the love of that. Because this arc is kind of broken up into a couple of like 4 smaller chapters, each of them showing you like how a mother's influence affects different people. Kind of at the beginning, it's like, well, we see that Beau wants to meet his mother because he feels guilty for not seeing her early. We go to another part of the story where he's kind of like trapped in this household with a mother trying to reconnect with somebody as like their surrogate son. Then we see like this huge narration with a man growing old trying to find his sons, and they are just looking for their mother. And then it's just like this thing about motherly guilt and being just taken over by that. It's pretty on the nose. So I don't know how some of these creators can walk out like, I have to process this. Like, it's just so hard to think about. It's pretty obvious if you ask me, but maybe I'm just interpreting it different than a lot of other people. Because I think as soon as we see what this is doing, it doesn't shy away from it and doesn't do it in like this really smart, dramatic sense. Does it pretty on the nose. So the dialogue is fine. I do think the script had a couple of weak moments here or there. Nothing that was egregious or bad. The set and the production design, immaculate. You could tell this is like a passion project. And the thing with Ari Aster is he knows how to film a movie, make something look cinematic, and at where to place a camera and have the right beats work for everything. Not a bad frame, not a bad still could be taken of this movie. Everything looks perfect. A very fantastic looking picture. Costuming is immaculate, like the dull, bright colors that Beau is wearing through a lot of it. Slowly things get grayer, and then when he's playing with more earth tones, it's so fascinating to see that. And then like using lighting really interestingly, there's a couple of key moments of the lighting that just made me smile. Some really great stuff with that, and showing flashback sequences in this different aesthetic. It's very impressive, and it just looks wholly unique to itself. Ari Aster cannot make a bad looking movie. That doesn't mean the content inside of it is great. It just means the guy has a cinematic eye and knows how to make a camera angle look really fun, knows how to film colors in a specific way, knows how to make his actors commit to the bit that they are doing. A lot of great actors in here. Joaquin Phoenix, it's a very strong performance. I can't say it's his best, but there is something about like the subtlety of his voice, the way he doesn't speak out of turn, the way he can't speak up, that's very intense. More towards the first half did that performance feel very captivating and scary, being caught in that moment. Amy Ryan did some pretty fun stuff in there for a minute. Nathan Lane, adorable, nice seeing him show up to do something fun. Patti LuPone carries the last half of this movie. She is just told, be intense, guilt trip your son a lot, and it works so incredibly well because she's an intimidating woman and made it incredibly scary just to watch her be on screen. Now, I don't want to spoil every single part of this movie, but there was one performance that made me go, yep, that might be one of my favorite performances I've seen in a long time. Parker Posey. Insane. Weird movie, and not like a weird where it's like, oh man, I can't understand it. Just weird like, man, it's amazing that somebody let this get greenlit and we were allowed to tell it this authentically with long tracking shots of like zoom ins, because it's for nobody. I don't know a young person who is like, I really liked Midsommar and Hereditary, who's gonna walk into this being amped to see a 3-hour movie about a son being guilt tripped by his mother to the point of insanity level events happening. What is real? What's in his mind? It's never clear, and it's just very intense and freaky. It does play on some like weird like things that happen in Hereditary. I'm not going to spoil that, but there's like a key moment that happens in Hereditary that's like almost like a comedic homage in this movie. Very fascinating, kind of cool. Like there is something about this that is worth exploring. Now, it's not wholly original. It's not going to change the game. I've seen a lot of female reporters and I've seen a lot of female critics kind of criticizing like, oh, another white guy talking about his mommy issues. I can't disagree with that because that's what this is. What I will say on that note is, I think this is doing it in a more comedic fashion, where he's like, do you see how extreme this could get if we were like given the chance for it to be extreme? If it became like a Truman Show level event, it'd be kind of insane. But there's some cool makeup effects, cool speech moments and narration moments that are interesting. You see Joaquin Phoenix try hard, and that's kind of impressive. It's not as trippy, weird, or insane as people might claim it is, but it's a solid picture that, well, if you need to kill an afternoon and you maybe want to get a better relationship with your mother, take her to this, because I'm sure she'll love you more or less after. I don't know what the extent of that could be. Or just call her, you know? You have an afternoon free, call your mother, because if you don't, this might happen to you. Yeah, weird, but it's fine. It's a fine flick. Beau is Afraid, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.